Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So today we are going to be talking to Tecovas, the famous Western-themed apparel brand. And this is especially exciting because we've been hearing about their solution from our customer success teams for a long time. It's supposed to be like an absolute kind of best practices implementation. So learning from them will be exciting. I'll be welcoming to the stage Kevin Harwood, the CTO of Tecovas, and Anya Colucci, the digital merchandiser on this brand right now. Amazing. Thank you for joining us today. This is,
Happy to be here.
Good. Thanks for having us.
So Kevin, you are the CTO, right? So you oversaw this whole transition to Sanity. So and you Anya, I know what a CTO is, but you're a digital merchandiser. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I have a merchandising background, primarily in retail merchandising. And a few years ago, I switched over to e-com digital site merchandising. So there's been a lot of really cool overlap. As a digital merchandiser, I work super closely with our product and planning teams. We review sales basically on a weekly basis and are able to make a lot of actionable changes as far as product representation across our site, just based on sellers and slower sellers, inventory liabilities and things like that. I do a lot of back-end product catalog management as well. So just really making sure that all of our product details and information is up to date and accurate as we continue to grow our product catalog exponentially. So yeah, just kind of the positioning of products strategically, the management of collection pages, PLPs, PDPs, work really closely with our copywriters just to make sure that our products translate well online and are just represented to the fullest.
Nice, thank you. So well, how would you Tecovas is famous in the US, but maybe not everywhere. Can you just describe the brand and the position that you have on there?
Me?
Yeah,
that's you.
I did actually hear. I joined Tecovas in the end of May, so it hasn't even been a year, but I did know of the brand beforehand. Granted, it is really big in Austin. Obviously, we're headquartered here, but we've really, expanded across the United States. I think we have about 31 stores now. 31 stores. So that's continued to be a really big business and opportunity for us. We're really kind of just paving the way in that Western world and really marrying traditional Western with millennial, fashion. So kind of all-income consumers from all different areas of the globe and the spectrum.
Yeah, so it's like millennial sensibilities married to a Western theme kind of world.
Totally, we're fusing the two, and it's been really cool to see just our product evolve over the past 6 or so months that I've been here.
So perfect. So now we have that picture. So Kevin, can you paint a picture? Where were you as a digital brand in the before times?
Sure. Yeah.
What's the situation?
Yeah. So I actually started at Tecovas last December. So I'm a year and 1 weekend to being here at Tecovas. And when I started, one of the major projects I had right when I started was assessing our digital capabilities and putting a plan together of how we wanted to move forward. And before we made our switch here, we were running just kind of a basic Shopify liquid site that had been developed for several years, and that was outsourced work. So we had an outsourced partner who was running all of those changes for us, and so we didn't really have any technical expertise in-house on managing our stack. And we also really had no CMS system. So a lot of those things were baked right into the liquid theme themselves. Changes required going to the developer to make those happen. It was very hard for us to leverage content in a reusable way. Just everything was a custom solution anytime we needed to change anything. So it was not the greatest setup for what we wanted to do moving forward. So
what kind of things? What kind of things? Because some people say like using Shopify alone is fine because it's kind of like a CMS anyway. Well, like what kind of things were requiring like a round trip to the developers?
Yeah, so we didn't really have like an advanced way to manage our homepage in terms of like modules and content and dynamically repositioning things, based on maybe changes that Anya wanted to make from selling data. We didn't really have a good way to make custom landing marketing pages in a reusable way. All of those really required kind of going through a full design phase. What do you want it to look like? Okay, a developer needs to go position these things and commit the theme and make it work. And it was just a very kind of tedious process for us to get anything done. And so it was very important for me to make a decision on how we wanted to manage our content moving forward. In my previous role, I faced a similar decision a few years back, and we actually ended up kind of rolling our own custom CMS. And so I've definitely seen the value of what a really powerful custom CMS can do for us, and was excited to step into this role and make those decisions and guide us to where we needed to go from there.
So when you came in, was it already clear that you wanted to kind of move on? Like that was kind of motivation, or
it was something that I was very passionate about us doing right from the beginning. So certainly developed the buy-in early on, put the plan together, obviously evaluated some options, and we hit the ground running.
So Anya, just before we move on to kind of the transition, how is kind of your job in this in the before times?
Gosh, where do I start? I will say transparently, we had really daunting, laborious workflows. Working out of Shopify just created a lot of manual tasks for us. So, I mean, just in the past few months, we've been able to automate a lot more of those processes, which has made our team's lives tremendously easier. So when it just came to launching brand campaigns, new product launches on the site, it was all a manual process. There was a lot of room for error. And so streamlining that now has again, just really made our lives a lot easier.
Yeah, we're managing thousands of SKUs in Shopify, and really had no kind of automated setup between our ERP to Shopify to like manage new products and have that flow work really well. So there was a lot of work they were doing by hand to stitch all that information together.
So I guess someone got started really in a really good way with a scrappy setup, and now they've still kind of outgrown that. Is that kind of a fair picture to paint? Yeah, it's often nice.
I think that's fair.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So did you know about at that time performance challenges? You had like business performance challenges. You had like yeah. Like how would you?
Yeah, I'll say like it was very difficult for us to like react to requests that came from a business perspective. There were a lot of no's, we can't do that, or this is going to take a week to do this, or if we do this, we're not going to be able to launch a product tomorrow because the team's focused on doing all the manual tasks to get a product ready for launch tomorrow. And so we were in a position where we couldn't react quickly to changing business needs and support those things and make things work faster on the site.
Yeah, totally. We have such a talented content and creative team, and I think on our past website, probably for lack of better words, we weren't really able to do that justice. So I think now we have so many great ways to be able to feature all this amazing content that we get just on a rolling basis throughout the year, whether it's within a brand campaign or outside of a brand campaign. So that's been really great. And like Kevin mentioned too, the reuse of modules and content has been just a huge lifesaver and time saver as well.
So now you are kind of in this situation where you have a lot of your important content locked into kind of templates. You need to have change orders to kind of change them, design processes. How was there a challenge in terms of convincing the rest of the company that you needed to move on? Like, how did you motivate that?
I'll say right now, we had very little challenge in convincing the group that
you were overdue.
It was time for us to be serious about our investment here on the digital front. And I'll just say, like, given the landscape of kind of e-commerce technology over the last few years, all of these things, there's several things that came together that made it a really good time for us to be investing this year in these technology changes. I'll say, obviously, on the Shopify side, they've been working on some some headless frameworks over the last few years, and with Hydrogen 2 and their move to Remix, I felt that really reached a maturity point that gave us some stability to be confident in our decision and moving forward with that headless side of the technology stack. And then obviously with Sanity and version 3 coming out late last year, and just the overall partnership that both Shopify and Sanity have together, those tools really came together at a really good time for us from an evaluation perspective of where we wanted to go with our technology stack moving forward. And I really look at this as like a 5 to 7 year decision that we're making in this investment. We are building the digital foundation for how we're going to run this company for the next at least half decade or more. And I have been incredibly impressed specifically with these tools that have come together. Our team absolutely loves working with them. I know we're going to talk about more details here coming up, but the timing of where these things have come together, the timing, I can't emphasize the timing of these tools coming together really gave us an incredible foundation for us to build on top of, and not have to reinvent a bunch of wheels, and allow us to focus on the experiences that matter for our customers and for our merchandisers internally.
Right, exactly. Because it sounds to me like you didn't have a very complicated decision process. Like you knew you wanted to move ahead. It was clear because you want to stay on Shopify. Clearly you have to do a composable solution because without it you would have to leave Shopify, which is painful, I guess. Like who wants that? And then, so then I guess did you pretty quickly arrive at Sanity then, I'm guessing?
Yeah, we definitely looked at a few options. Certainly, I was asking around other e-commerce leaders out there what their choices were for CMS. Spent a lot of time talking to Shopify directly and getting their feedback on what they've seen from a success perspective. And to be fully honest, like as we dug into Sanity, it became really clear that that was the tool for us. It gave our developers what we needed in order to move quickly. It gave us experiences that our merchandisers are going to be able to use and make changes quickly. It has an incredible API that feeds right back into Hydrogen and all the caching infrastructure that happens on the site itself. Those pieces just really fit together really well and became a really obvious choice for us early on.
Nice. So Anya, were you involved in this decision? Did you look at things? What were your reaction?
I definitely joined the company after the decision was already made.
Okay.
So yeah, but I will say one of the greatest things was just the collaborative effort between the merchandising and engineering teams. We met on a daily basis for quick syncs. We had weekly sprint reviews, and the engineering team would do demos for us. We really got like a really great understanding of the possibilities on the tech side, and I think vice versa, the tech and engineering team, in turn got an understanding of our needs and things that we wanted to prioritize. So
that's impressive. That sounds great, because I do feel very often when I talk to companies in my doing research that they very rarely involve the kind of what we would call the content team, because it's different companies, they are called different things, but like the people who will work on the site day to day, very often like it's an isolated process, like engineers and designers will just put something together and like they just
totally. I mean, at times we speak two different languages, so it was really important for us to understand again what tech team was working and building on, and just giving our perspective and our strategy, for what we wanted it to look like or feature and whatnot. So that was a great part of the process.
I'm beginning to understand why our people kept saying that your solution was getting so well put together. Like Kevin, what were you're thinking about this?
I've been down this path before in terms of rolling out custom CMSs for e-commerce companies. And I've very much preached to my engineering team empathy. We have to understand how these merchandisers are going to work on a day-to-day basis. And we need to see how they work. We need to look over their shoulder. They need to show us problems that they have. And I think there are hundreds of ways that we can make their job more efficient and have them focus on more strategic problems rather than tedious problems. And so, we're literally sitting next to each other, hearing about the problems and talking about them. And
I'm almost moved. Like I'm actually like a little bit moved because I hear this so rarely. Like this is so good, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, success is not going to happen if these teams are separated. We are all kind of one digital team here, moving our entire digital infrastructure forward. And we have to be able to understand how these tools are going to be used in practice on a day-to-day basis in order to make them work great.
That's amazing. Like Anya, are you able to we will dig into more of the solution, but I wanted to give it dig into this a little bit. Like, can you remember a specific thing that you together discovered that like a thing that wouldn't have happened? Let's say if the tech team and designers just were in a different building, not engaging with you.
I think one thing that's been major for us is the ability to build these in-house algorithms to do a lot of our sorting on PLPs and collection pages. That has been major. That has saved me so much manual labor. Back in the day with Shopify, we used to have to manually sort galleries and manually sort collection pages. Now it's all algorithm based on badges and inventory and bestsellers and newness. So that's been really, really key. And then recently, our team has been working on building what we're calling just like a content library, which I think will be super, super useful for our team as a whole, again, in that reuse of content. Our designer, worked day in and day out on building these modules for us. And so creating that type of content library will be super useful for our team, again, as we continue to build these custom pages for campaigns and whatnot.
That's so cool. And I sometimes in the right situation, I pitch Sanity as like a kit to build your custom CMS. And you talked about having a custom CMS, Kevin. Other times, because you can also use Sanity very simply, not investing a lot of energy, and you can use it as a kind of out-of-the-box experience. Sometimes I have to say that, depending on what people are needing. But it sounds like because you don't have like a huge team, right? You have a pretty scrappy operation.
No, we have a pretty small team. I've got 2 engineers currently on my website team. We have a digital product manager, a designer, a project manager, and then Anya and Jess on our merchandising team. So that's basically our entire day-to-day digital footprint. So definitely a small team, and we've done a massive amount of work without having to have a large headcount investment there.
That's amazing. Well, are you able to show some of your kind of your studio implementation details?
Yeah, great. So one thing I'll touch on here is what we call our shop all experience, which is, a PLP type experience, a collection page experience. Anya was starting to touch a little bit on it just a moment ago. And there is a lot going on in this design. And one thing that I want to call out is a solution that we came up with for managing all of our filters and facets on the left-hand side of our collection page over here. There's a lot of complication in managing filters and facets and supporting kind of dynamic filtering on the fly based on various parameters. And Sanity, I'm going to flip over to our Sanity. So what we built was the ability for us to manage all of our filters and facets from within Sanity itself. And we built a system that allows us to go in and let me take toe shape, for example. It allows me to go in and define how this option is going to show up in our URL structure. It allows me to go in and define how we actually match the different parameters on what round toe even means. And on a product, it's boot toe shape equals round toe. And so we've built a completely dynamic filtering system powered by Sanity with no front-end engineering code needed to make any changes.
So you can invent new facets.
You can invent new facets and filters on the fly. I'm literally
crying right now.
And in fact, that's what we did with the holiday gift guide. Is the holiday gift guide was just added as a new filter type that has some specific parameters on how to attach products to that filter. And our merchandising team added this feature in the position where they wanted it and never had to even go talk to the engineering team to get this done. So it allowed
years ago when we framed Sanity, I said sometimes structure is content, and I felt like no one understands what I'm saying, and this is the most kind of clear implementation of that. Now your structure in this page is actually content. Yeah.
And
just to jump in, this has opened up a whole new way of working for us. It really has tremendously helped in simplifying the navigation process just from a user, experience. It's helped on our end in being able to double expose, triple expose products and just really give them the visibility that we've always wanted to.
So you can use this to control inventory. You can, like you having
Maybe.
you need to. No, like you said, like you have some slow sellers, you want to expose them extra. You can use your filtering.
we can really like hone in on the categories and the descriptors and those keywords that we want some of these products to fall under. So it's really helped in providing more of like a tailored, personalized experience when it comes to products. A product isn't just outerwear, it's a puffer jacket, or it's something a little bit more granular. So we're able to speak to products in a way that we've always wanted to, and not at that high level way that we used to. So it's opened up a whole new world for us as far as just like product exposure and filtering capabilities and whatnot.
Yeah, I'll also say that the way we've built this, if you look at our URL structure here, the URL structure itself is actually defined by our filters and facets. And we introduced the concept of a filter either being a path component, which you can see here, or a query parameter, which you can see there. And that actually drives the structure of how those filters are applied dynamically to our URL paths. And so the team's able to create very specific URL structure and paths and filters and send emails and marketing to very specific curated collection sets that also then have like our algorithmic sorting applied to it. So there is just a lot of cool things that we've been able to unlock as a result of this implementation.
Nice.
I'll show some other examples here, which again, I'm probably caught in the middle of an upgrade, so hopefully this loads real time for me. We've got another concept here, which we call manual collections, because we certainly have needs for creating curated landing pages for specific types of content. This happens to be what we call style for the aisle, our wedding collection page that you can land on. And if you take a look at our front side of this, you can see we've got a mixture of both products as well as some more hero creative photography that's sprinkled in to the layout here. And our team is able to manage this order explicitly. So, they could come in and reorder these things dynamically. We've made some custom cards on the Sanity side to show some Tecovas specific information in each one of these cards to help them understand how these things are going to look from a presentation perspective. And you can see we have lots of options over here that they've gone in and made. So, this is something, again, that used to take quite a bit of time for each individual collection that involved both engineering and our merch team. And now they have full control of that layout. I also want to call out. Go ahead.
Sorry. So no, I just wanted to, so your team, Anya, can kind of just pull together, like have the creative idea about like we need a separate collection now. You pull it together, add the creative bits, and you're off and running. And no developer ever was pestered during this process. Amazing.
Nope, we didn't need any outside IT help, any outside developer help. We can, fully, like Kevin said, manage and control this gallery and how the collection appears on the site with such a, great amount more of creative content versus just product cards like it was in the past.
Yep. And I see Andrew's question in the chat that just came up. I'll touch on that briefly real quick before moving on to the next thing I was going to show. We are not using the Sanity connector. We are running Hydrogen V2 Remix as our stack. We're running on top of Oxygen on the Shopify side. And then we've built custom connections between our ERP and Sanity. Our ERP is NetSuite. And so we're managing some export information from NetSuite into Sanity for product creation. And then we built some specific actions for syncing data back to Shopify in the ways that our merchandisers like to work with data in Shopify. So we were able to essentially mimic some of those processes on our own, just rolling some custom connections between the two. And that's been really successful for us. We've been really pleased with how that works together. I'll also touch on I don't really know if I have a way to show this, but Sanity has an incredible webhook system that allows for you can essentially go and define very granular logic for what notifications you want to hear about from your content lake. And then you can also put a custom projection on what that webhook delivers. So you can literally build your own webhook system in the content structure that you need for a downstream system to consume that information. And so we've built several hooks that allow for updates in Sanity to drive changes back into Shopify. I think one example of that is for our Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale that we did last week. We did a site-wide markdown where we marked down all of our prices on our website. And we built a little upload tool that allowed us to change all of the prices in Sanity in one single API transaction, which was super fast. And then we had the webhooks from that system drive to our kind of middleware that we built. And using the Shopify GraphQL API, which allows for bulk transactions to be committed back to Shopify, we changed 10,000 SKUs in like 30 seconds and we're done. Worked at scale really well for us in connecting those systems together. The last thing I want to go
can do. That's what an average team can do with 2 developers and 1 CTO, right?
With 2 developers, that's right. Yeah, we've been able to pull all of that.
So everyone should expect that level of performance.
It's great.
That's how this works. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I also want to touch on a few more things. So like I want to show off a little bit of a custom story page that we have here, which is a collaboration we did with Christopher Brock. And again, this is under a URL story/Christopher Brock. This is, a very, detailed, creative marketing page that we want to highlight product for. And a couple of things I want to call out. First, we're leveraging Sanity's hotspot imaging system here, which allows us to upload a high resolution image and identify hotspot characteristics for that image. And then we can use that image responsively across the rest of the site when rendering this page. So here, by setting the hotspot, you can see how this image would render under different viewport characteristics for the item. So this is cut down on the number of assets we need to manage. We don't have to go as creative to cut things differently for the mobile version versus the desktop version. We're able to manage all of that directly here within Sanity itself. And then Sanity has a JavaScript tool that allows us to put all of the URL characteristics for that viewport in, and the perfectly sized image is delivered to the browser on demand through the Sanity CDN. So we've seen really good performance there. And then the last thing I'll touch on here is that we've built this system of modules that allows our editors to go in and make these pages in whatever system they need for a particular design. So in this case, we've got this hero and then this 4-up and then a collection video. And we've got all these different types of content pieces that are featured on this page. These are all just defined here in the CMS, and they can go and add whichever one they want. If they want to add more, they can go and reorder these and obviously click into any one and update the things that they want to update about each one of these. So all of these things obviously are done developer free. So the merch team and creative team are able to go and just run the site. And the engineering team on my side is, what's next? What other features need to be built? What other future modules do you need? And so we're thinking about, how do we continue to provide more reusable pieces of content that, we can continue to support the team growing and being more adventurous in the things they want to put on the website. So that's a few examples.
One of the things I wanted to touch on while Kevin was on the style for the aisle, it's small, but it definitely was a game changer, is just our ability and ease of selecting a face out or a forefront color. Prior to Sanity, we used to have to do that by manually entering a product handle and color into a custom meta field, and it was absolutely bonkers. So we are able to select individual face out colorways for collections like this that are super specific, as well as whether we want to show all colorways or turn off all of those other swatches. So again, that was a small one, but a big game changer for us when it came to really personalizing and catering those collection pages to specific occasions.
Yeah, if you see here, we've got the Annie called out here as a product, and Anya selected the Annie as the product she wanted to be in this position in the collection. And we have an optional way where she can then go pick the color that she wants to have appear first. And so that has allowed her to then, curate this collection with white and black product for the
to be able to do that all in
I
one
understand.
place.
Yeah, of course. So you curating which variant of each product that you want to display in this. I understand.
Exactly. And to be able to do that all in one place has been a game changer. We used to have to reference so many different fields and manually insert product handles into a meta field. And it was really tough.
And just to say, we've also given the merchant the ability to choose whether they want the additional swatches to appear on that collection card. So in this case, we have all colorways turned on. So you can see that the other colorways are also available to switch to if you wanted to. But for a highly curated experience, there may be some situations where they don't want to distract with the other swatches. And so they have the ability to also go and turn that off. So just that single color is featured in that collection without the swatches, if that's the route they wanted to go.
That's so cool. One of my dreams when we kind of framed Sanity was also to get rid of secret codes in CMSs. Like I was so used to double backtick in a URL to embed a video, and you remember to do double end brackets to have titles be a special big size. So that's an amazing example of this, where you can encode that in the content model, and it didn't take you a long time, I'm assuming, Kevin.
Nope, it did not.
This is more about spending the time talking together, content creators and the tech team, to figure out what actually matters.
That's right.
Yeah. This is really, really impressive. So this is a classical composable stack, and this is like a buzzword, but it means something very specific, right? Like you said, you have NetSuite as your source of product truth. I'm guessing, what product do you have? Sanity is your source of how you present and lay that out and organize that, curate that, and the price, I realize, and then you feed that all into Shopify, which is the transaction engine and the presenter. Are there more systems involved? What are the?
So from a high level, those are the three primary systems that are involved in supporting the layout of the site. There are a few other, I guess we'll call them auxiliary systems, that are involved here. We're currently using Cloudinary to support our video content. We're using a Shopify app called Rebuy that powers some of our recommendations that you'll see appear in various parts of the site. There's a handful of others involved, but in terms of mission critical render, it's really just Sanity and Shopify that are involved in powering our website. And I'll touch on just briefly for anyone on the call who's kind of gone down the technical route of Hydrogen and Shopify's hosting infrastructure for Hydrogen sites, which is called Oxygen. And then obviously there's Sanity as well. And there's multiple levels of caching that are involved in supporting a very speedy site. And Sanity works really, really well with Oxygen's caching layer. In fact, the Sanity client I know that y'all have developed for Hydrogen is specifically tailored to work with Oxygen caching. And so, during our Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we saw absolute peak traffic that we had never seen before. And the site was rock solid. Caching was a huge part of supporting the performance there. And we've been really, really thrilled with how those pieces have worked together so far.
Nice. That's amazing. So then during the sale, you have availability in stock in Shopify, so you don't have to update anything there from NetSuite. That's
correct. So we're using Shopify. Shopify is our inventory source of truth. And that is what we rely on to manage oversells and checkout, et cetera. We're not trying to manage inventory numbers in Sanity. Because Sanity is not an inventory management system, and any change to a number would invalidate some caching that's going on the Sanity side. And so we actually prefer to manage inventory outside of Sanity and leave that in the e-commerce system of truth for the inventory management.
Just a dumb question, because I thought ERP meant you had inventory information in the ERP system, but you don't, because that's in Shopify.
Well, we do. ERP is our source of truth for managing all of our inventory transactions. But in terms of selling that inventory, the Shopify system is responsible for tracking the available sellable inventory. And so
exactly. So the number goes down in Shopify and it goes up in NetSuite, and then in the end, it hopefully becomes zero in both systems eventually.
Yep. That's right.
Yes. Okay. I understand. Right. Yeah. I'm not very advanced on retail, but this is some adult education for me. Thank you. Amazing. So what would you say? What would you say was the? I guess the answer kind of gives itself, but what in terms of the business performance here, what are the unlocks here? What are the most impactful things here?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen site speed performance across the board significantly faster than what we had before. We've actually seen significantly higher ADA scores for the accessibility ratings on our website. Part of our Sanity rebuild included making sure that there was required accessibility content as a part of each of the pieces of content that we were creating, including images. We even built a little custom plugin that can put images to a service. I forget what it's called, but it's a machine learning service where you upload the image and back comes accessibility text for that item. And so that streamlines some things for our merchants as well. We've seen increased conversion on several of our routes and pages here as a result. So, I mean, it's been fantastic from a numbers perspective, and I know Anya's quality of life has also gone up as well in terms of. I
mean, those things are nice, but if the kind of business performance numbers don't go up, who cares, right?
Yeah,
so, but they did too.
Right.
Yeah, I think I might have touched on this earlier, but I think one of the biggest, again, game changers has just been the workflow to launch products for us. The past few months, we've been launching on average 8 to 20 products on a weekly basis. And we've been able to automate so much more of that workflow. So now that NetSuite and Sanity and Shopify all talk to each other, we can, instead of manually copy and paste barcodes and UPC codes, we can import them directly into Sanity from NetSuite. We can sync imagery with literally one click of a button from Dropbox in an order that we tell it to based on naming conventions that we label these images with. We can easily import other product fields such as toe shape and material, hair guides, and all of that other fun product detail stuff. So that process has gotten exponentially better. And I think as we continue to grow and launch new products, it'll really be a lifesaver for us.
Amazing. So everyone gets more done faster and easier with less pain, and then the business thrives. So to kind of start wrapping up, if you could, everyone in this in the chat, everyone watching the stream or probably considering or in the middle of doing something similar, if you could kind of give yourself, let's start with you, Kevin. If you could give yourself some advice and some insights and send back to your former self, what would you wish you had known?
That's a great question. I'll say, so our team, we kind of started from scratch. We weren't Remix developers when we started. We weren't Sanity developers when we started. I'll start by just saying that the support that we got from both Sanity and Shopify was mission critical, I think, to our success. Obviously, I was engaged with your success team. They did a fantastic job. Noah specifically did a great job helping us learn how to use these tools and the system. And we developed basically from March until October. And it felt like every 2 weeks we learned something new. That I was like, oh, yes, that makes sense. That's how that works. We just continued to learn and have these unlocks as we went. And I think that's just kind of naturally part of the process. And so, I don't necessarily regret all that, but the things that we've learned in the 7 months of development that we had in this project, we're now ready to, if we had to do this again, we'd do it even faster, just with the tools that we've now developed in our tool belt. So, I'm not afraid of new. I'm not afraid of change. I embrace that. And there's plenty of things I wish I knew at the start. I just would have done it faster.
Exactly. So in a sense, your advice would be just stay open and be learning.
Yeah.
It sounds like to me.
Yeah. Stay the course. There will be difficult problems that arise. There'll be challenges that, you're not quite sure how to solve, but we were able to work through all that with the tools at our disposal. And we were really happy with it came in on the other side.
Amazing. And how about you, Anya? Anything that you would have told your younger self about this particularly?
I don't know. One of the things, or one of my concerns, I guess, was with joining and being told within a few weeks that we were going headless and using a new CMS was crap. Will I be able to learn this and use it? And the answer was definitely yes, which I quickly learned. The Sanity interface is super, super user friendly. So that was a breath of fresh air when I first joined. So that would definitely be something that I would prioritize, would just be user friendliness. And like I mentioned before, just the collaboration and working really closely with developers and tech team and merchandisers, just to again understand the tech constraints and vice versa possibilities, and for them to understand our strategy on a visual merchandising level. I think identifying as many opportunities to automate processes ahead of time. Obviously, once you launch, there are so many edge cases and use cases that come up that you realize after the fact, but any opportunities to try to automate workflow and processes, we mentioned a few today, would be super beneficial.
Exactly. And this kind of relieves you to just be creative and optimizing and do that part that's kind of specifically something we humans can do in this age.
That's right.
And then automate everything else, all the other things. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So this was a great session. I understand now. This sounds like this is the gold standard, everyone in the audience. This is how you should do it. Like clearly, this is like, when I look at your stuff, Kevin, and I hear you talk on, this is how I imagine when we kind of create the product and we think about it. That's how you imagine people are using it, and then it's hard to get to where you are. But I hope everyone is watching this and learning from this. Yeah. It's amazing. I'm planning to come over and visit you in the new year.
Let's get you some boots. That'll be great.
Exactly.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Perfect. Let's see you then. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Simon.